Imagine going to work and having a bill at the end of your shift instead of a pay packet. That scenario is possible and happening in Tasmania. Craig Harwood is preparing to fight against being sued by his former employer. The employer's right to sue stems back to an old British ruling that still exists in case law. The fight is now on to see it abolished. Craig and Anita Harwood have had a tough couple of years. Craig's had a number of back operations and now a spinal fusion after a workplace injury. His wife, Anita, is in remission from bowel cancer. To top it off, Craig is being sued by his former employer under a centuries-old law.
It wasn't until I spoke to my legal representation that they told me that it was very real. It was because of the lack of legislation in Tasmanian law, an employee can be sued or added as a third party.
There you go. Mr Harwood was a salesman for a building products company. It sold the raw product and also provided installation. His problems began in 2005 when an unhappy customer refused to pay. The customer was sued by the company for the money owed, but they then countersued for loss of income. As the legal tussle ensued, the contractors who installed the product and Mr Harwood were added to the legal action.
The reason being is that I was told that I didn't perform my duties correctly in supervising the job, when there was cracks in the house. So I didn't supervise the job correctly.
Mr Harwood says it wasn't his role to supervise the job, but even if it were, and as an employee he made a mistake, he thought there'd be legal protection.
You can be sued as an employee, and the analogy was used that if you worked in a hardware store and you spilled a can of paint everywhere all over the floor, and that section couldn't be used for retail for that day, then very technically you could actually be sued for the loss of income of that area for that particular day.
Former Federal Attorney-General Duncan Kerr is taking on Mr Harwood's case. He says it all goes back to a well-outdated, century-old British law Tasmania should get rid of.
There, a father and son were employed by our company. Dad was directing the son backed over his father in the truck, and of course Dad sued because of the negligence of his son. For his injuries, and the insurance company pays out on that, but then turns around and sues the other employee. And the other employee would have ordinarily thought, well, that's covered by the insurance policy, but the House of Lords said no, the insurance company can recover what they've paid out.
It's very archaic, isn't it? It does hark back to master and servant.
Well, it does. I think it was Lord Simmons in the case of Lister and Romford Ice that said, well, this is the sort of rule you have to have in master and servant relations to deal with those kind of people who might otherwise impose costs on decent employers and insurers.
Has Tasmania dragged its feet?
I don't know whether it's dragged its feet, but